During the 2014 March Madness Finals, Shabazz Napier, star point guard for the UConn Huskies, told assembled reporters,
"There's hungry nights when I'm not able to eat, but I still got to play up to my capabilities."
That should bother you. Napier was a star player whose labor was generating a ton of money for his school, his conference, his coaches, and executives throughout the industry, and he didn't feel like he had enough to eat after a practice or a game. We could fast forward to March Madness today. Some of these college players are pulling in hundreds of thousands of dollars and picking up other major perks, thanks to several significant rule changes over the past few years. Those include changes to name, image, and likeness rules, or NIL. Looking at these two situations side by side, you might think that we've solved the problem of college athlete pay, right? Wrong. The truth is, while a few star players are getting these amazing, newsworthy deals, the vast majority of college athletes are left out. The NIL rule change has also created a new, shadowy network of predatory agents, collectives, and third-party companies, all with their own profit incentives. I'm Matt Brown. I'm a sports writer and I'm the publisher of Extra Points, a newsletter that covers business and policy stories in college athletics. But I'm also a college sports fan, and I'm one that believes that if we want to love and support college athletes on the field, we need to love and support them off the field too. This is The Classroom for More Perfect Union, and today we're looking at how college athletes are still being exploited. Let's go back to the very beginning of college sports. College football games, and even some other sports like college baseball and track meets, soon became massive commercial enterprises, with schools selling radio rights and booking huge stadiums with sellout crowds. The money in this industry continued to grow as revenues from ticket sales and then later television broadcast rights expanded. But college sports leaders at the campus and broader level refused to share any of that money with athletes, thanks to something that they call amateurism. The modern definition was codified with the creation of the term student athlete in the 1950s, which really has a pretty chilling history. The NCAA created this terminology to get out of paying workers' compensation after an athlete died. Athletes who received financial compensation due to being an athlete could be ruled ineligible to compete. Anybody that sold autographs or received free meals or accepted some sort of payment to attend a particular university could see their athletic careers end. But eventually, the money around everything got too big to ignore. In 1984, the Supreme Court ruled that the NCAA could no longer unilaterally control all college sports television broadcasts. That means that individual conferences, or even specific schools, like Notre Dame, could now sign their own television deals. In just a few short years, athletic revenue skyrocketed. Conferences began to expand and realign to take advantage of new television markets, often to the detriment of historic rivalries or conferences. That money continued to flow to everybody in college athletics but the athletes. Coaching salaries and spending on just about everything else completely exploded. For some perspective here, Florida State head coach Bobby Bowden signed the first $1 million deal back in 1995. Just 20 years later, coaches like Nick Saban of Alabama were now clearing over $11 million a year, far more than even many NFL coaches. If you look at the highest paid public employee for each state, 2/3 of them right now are college coaches. The University of Texas, back in fiscal year 21, according to the reports they had to submit to the NCAA, cleared over $200 million in revenue, combining television media rights, ticket sales, corporate sponsorship dollars, booster donations, and more. The newest Big Ten television contract is now more valuable than the one for the NHL. It will pay out over $1 billion a year. But in the late 2010s, college sports reformers centered their efforts on the NCAA's control of an athlete's name, image, and likeness, especially after the O'Bannon versus NCAA case in 2015, which ruled that athletes were due compensation for the NCAA and other groups like EA Sports.
It's in the game.
Using their NIL in things like video games. Previously, not only could athletes not share revenue from their athletic work, they couldn't even earn money from their own likeness for things that had nothing to do with college athletics. If an athlete happened to have a popular YouTube channel that had nothing to do with sports, the athlete couldn't keep money and their athletic eligibility at the same time. In 2019, lawmakers in California, led by State Senator Nancy Skinner and a slew of other college sports reformers, proposed something called the Fair Pay to Play Act, which prohibited the NCAA from punishing athletes in California who took advantage of their NIL rights. The NCAA panicked, but other states quickly followed suit, Republican lawmakers in Florida quickly passed their own version, which would go into effect even before California's. Then lawmakers in other states, like New Mexico, Illinois, South Carolina, and Colorado, proposed similar legislation. The NCAA could not possibly isolate that many athletes and that many institutions. Compounding the NCAA's problem, the Supreme Court ruled 9-0. This Supreme Court ruled 9-0 against the organization in Alston v. NCAA back in 2021. The court ruled in that case that the NCAA's restrictions on athlete educational spending were unconstitutional. On June 30th, 2021, the NCAA announced a new policy that would permit athletes to profit off their own NIL until a federal law was passed. Now we're in the NIL era. But NIL can mean a lot of different things. Market-driven NIL includes all commercial activity between athletes and brands or camps or third parties that are actually trying to realize financial gain from the transaction. NIL software company Opendoors estimated that the average NIL compensation in Division I was close to $4,000. But these are just estimates, because it's actually almost impossible to get completely accurate NIL data. Athletes don't always have to disclose their deal information with their schools, and they certainly don't have to share it with the general public. Lots of different types of companies have done NIL deals. You've got national companies working with gigantic national athletes like Buffalo Wild Wings and Dr. Pepper, but you've also got local fireworks companies, restaurants, churches, bars, political candidates, and more. Hell, I've even paid a dozen athletes to promote my newsletter. We also have NIL deals, though, that have nothing to do with athlete marketability and are instead about encouraging athletes to attend a particular school or remain at a particular school. The NCAA's NIL policies prohibit deals from being used as recruiting inducements, wanting to avoid a pay-for-play system, but we need to be honest here. That's absolutely happening right now. To be fair, paying athletes under the table has pretty much always been the case in college football, even way back when Yale and Princeton were actually good. But in the NIL era, the system has become more expensive, more expansive, and more complicated, thanks in large part to a new entity, the NIL Collective. NIL collectives come in many shapes and sizes, but essentially, they're groups of boosters or donors that raise money to broker deals en masse. A collective could decide to pay an athlete a marketing deal for $200,000 in exchange for signing some autographs or a very limited promotional engagement, but what that really means is for the money to encourage the athlete to sign for good old State U. If you're a big-time program, your NIL collective is now functioning as essentially a de facto general manager, raising money to pay athletes. Exactly the sort of thing that the NCAA doesn't want. On one hand, my opinion, this system is far superior to the status quo that we enjoyed before. But this system still exploits athletes. For example, the vast majority of current NIL collectives are only supporting athletes who play football or men's basketball. In general, white influencers often find it easier to find deals than influencers of color, and straight cis influencers are often seen as more brand safe than LGBTQ athletes. Women athletes may face pressure to produce content that they might not be comfortable with in order to grow their follower accounts. There's also the problem of predatory agents. Elite athletes usually use agents or marketing firms to help them find and execute deals. Agents who represent professional athletes in the NFL or NBA or other professional leagues typically have to be certified by athlete unions. These agents almost certainly will have law degrees, have passed exams, or otherwise demonstrated that they can meet basic professional standards. Of course, college athletes don't have a union because they aren't employees, and few states have any athletic agent regulatory rules that have any teeth. That means that anybody can say they're an NIL agent, including undergrads, family members, or any rando with a Twitter account. College agents often routinely charge higher fees, sometimes as high as 30% on these deals, compared to their professional counterparts. Getting bad advice or getting completely ripped off is a major risk. A college agent can still capture 25% or more off those contracts, claiming out their marketing deals. And if that meant that an agent encouraged an athlete to transfer somewhere that wasn't in their athletic or academic best interests, if the agent can't represent the athlete in the pros, what do they care? So what can be done? One potential solution would be for the athletes to simply become employees. The NLRB will consider reclassifying some athletes as employees later this year. Another federal court case, Johnson v. NCAA, is also challenging the NCAA's classification of whether athletes should be considered employees or student athletes. Should athletes be reclassified as employees, the schools will directly compensate them. removing a need for some NIL collectives, and that outside compensation could be negotiated via collective bargaining agreement. Folks like Jason Stahl, the executive director and founder of the College Football Players Association, are working on union-like and union-adjacent solutions to this problem.
You do have athletes that are making quite a significant amount of money. In some cases, making six figures per year. But they are standing next to many individuals, including on their team, who are making zero. But if athletes really want to see the gains that can be made in this industry, the only way is to band together collectively. What we're trying to do at the College Football Players Association, and adding members, and eventually, particularly as we see new group licensing things, opportunities on the horizon, to get athletes organized into a players association that can facilitate group licensing arrangements. Group licensing rights are sort of group NIL. Right? So if we think about, we've got a large group of individuals with the same interest in monetizing their name, image, and likeness as a group. So for star players, a group licensor can go to, let's say, the top 100 players, right? And sign unique opportunities with them for things like jersey sales, right? We want that to be collectively organized through the College Football Players Association. So that sort of passive income opportunity that group licensing provides can be distributed to the collective in a fair way where players are actually getting paid.
Another potential solution involves Congress. The NCAA is planning on asking Congress to prevent athletes from being classified as employees. And the NCAA would need an antitrust exemption that would allow them to regulate NIL more effectively. Right now, it doesn't look very likely that's going to happen. Either of these solutions legitimately does carry some risks. Making athletes employees could substantially improve working conditions for elite athletes, and it might remove some of the third-party rent seekers that are populating the NIL industry. But without a strong union, athletes might be in a challenging position at the negotiating table. It's also unclear what would happen to all Olympic sport programs or mid-major athletic departments. Giving the NCAA exactly what they want would also remove major tools used by athletes to agitate for better working conditions and cement at least some of the exploitive systems that we've all seen over the last 150 years. But what we have now isn't the final stop in the conversation around athlete rights, athlete labor, and athlete compensation. I'm Matt Brown, I'm the publisher of Extra Points, and this has been The Classroom for More Perfect Union. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications to support more videos like this one, or go to www.extrapointsmb.com to see extra points.